Pretty Girl Club. So, I want to tell a story time of when an unambiguous black man tried to humble me. I feel like on this channel we talk a lot about women trying to humble us, but I just feel like I want to give some of the men some smoke as well. And I just feel like talking my shit. So, when I was in college, I actually went to an HBCU. And if you have been to college, you know how they have like the college bookstore? So you walk into the bookstore, you can get like varsity jackets or like sweaters that say Morehouse or USC or whatever your college name is. So at my particular college, they would actually have the students be models for the bookstore. So you would go into the store and then you would see like all of these really big blown up posters of the students with all of the different like sweatshirts on and stuff. They would sell like the little championship rings, like if they won a football game. At my particular HBCU, they even sold natural hair products. I remember they sold Carol's Daughter hair products. That was kind of how I first heard about that brand. You could buy notebooks. So, pretty much anything you could think of and anything you would need for university, they would sell it at this store. So like MacBooks, just everything. And some of my friends worked at the bookstore too. You know how they have like work study. So some of my friends work there. So anyway, they were having a little casting call for people who wanted to do things with the bookstore. So the way that it worked at my university was the students who worked in the bookstore, usually those were students who wanted to be librarians when they got older or once they graduated. So the way my university worked was they had a lot of opportunities on campus that are supposed to relate to what you wanted to do. So I remember they had this really big casting call for people who wanted to do stuff with this particular store. So if you wanted to be a photographer for the bookstore, let's say you were majoring in like film or something that had to do with photography, you could show them your portfolio. And basically, it's a way to help you to like get started in your career. So at that time, I was very interested in all things fashion. So it could have been modeling. I've done makeup before for pageants, hairstyling, nails, anything you could think of with that. That was kind of my hobby. That was like one of my side hustles when I was in college. So I ended up getting cast as a model for the university's like bookstore thing. So we ended up going to the tennis courts and they had a whole photo shoot plan. So they picked myself and they picked a whole bunch of other guys and girls from the university. They hired photographers. So the university is paying all of these people. So they hired photographers, they hired makeup artists, they hired stylists. So it was a really cool way to get experience if you wanted to be able to do stuff like that. So one of the girls, she actually ended up being able to work for New York Fashion Week because of her experience that she got doing different styling opportunities on the college campus. So it was a really cool opportunity. It was very competitive, and a lot of people really wanted to have that opportunity because, you know, you're working as a professional and you're in your early 20s. So it looks really good on your resume. So I got cast as one of the models. And I remember I had my hair silk pressed. So I was a silk pressed natural. I actually wore my hair natural all the way up until I don't know, about 27, for the most part. Like, I never got wigs. I never got into wigs until I was about 27 or 28. But my hair, I remember I put it up in a high bun. You know those little top knot buns? It's not very cute. I don't know why I did that hairstyle, but anyway. So I remember for the photo shoot, I had my hair in a top knot bun, and we were actually working with Ralph Lauren. So you know Ralph Lauren, like polo, like those shirts and stuff? Yeah. So we got to wear Ralph Lauren clothes, and then they had the students doing styling, and so we were kind of mixing and matching some of the Ralph Lauren polo clothes along with the clothes that had like the university name on it. So I had my hair in a top knot bun. I remember I was so excited to do this job. And when they were picking out the clothes for like which model was going to wear what, I remember they chose me to wear this really light pink polo shirt because it looked really good on my skin tone. And another thing that I noticed was the person that was kind of directing the photo shoot, he had myself and this other lighter skinned guy. He had the two of us being photographed together. So they kind of paired people off, kind of making it look like it's a guy talking to a girl or something. You know how they do those high-end fashion shoots for Ralph Lauren? It was supposed to look exactly like that. So they had me paired off with him and then they paired off some other people. They had people of all different shades and phenotypes. And I remember this unambiguous black guy, he got hired as the photographer. So he was taking photos of all of us. And I'm not going to lie, I think my outfit was actually the cutest because it was pink and that's like my favorite color. But I remember he was photographing us and he was talking to everybody else and kind of directing them on how to get a good photo. He was talking to everybody else except for me and the light skinned black guy. And so me and the light skinned black guy, we just kind of thought of different poses to do amongst ourselves. And I noticed that he would never give us any direction. And so I didn't think anything of it. I didn't think he was trying to sabotage us or anything, but we were just like, whatever, like you can just stand on the bleachers and then I'll just sit down on the bleachers. So we kind of organized it ourselves. We were just excited to have that opportunity. So I remember we were doing the photography and stuff. And this whole shoot, the whole process lasted a few days because we had to put on like multiple different outfits. We went to multiple different locations. They did some tennis photos. They did like some photos by the football field. So we kept coming back every few days. And I remember all of us were super excited and I was super bubbly and nice to everybody. But this unambiguous black photographer who was in charge of everything, he just kept on ignoring me. But I was like not thinking anything of it. So I remember we had our final meeting together and we all went to this little office because he wanted to kind of show us the photos and we were going to kind of brainstorm like in terms of branding which photos go the best with kind of the Ralph Lauren aesthetic. And so we were looking at it, and then he was talking about how he had to edit the photos. So this guy, he was in charge of taking the photos, photoshopping them, and kind of like cropping them, doing what photographers do. So he was kind of like the director of everything. Like all the visuals, he was in charge of it. We were just like the models. So I remember he was talking about how he had to edit my photo, and I remember I was like, "Oh, can I see my photos?" Like all of the models were like, "Can I see my photos? Can I see mine?" So he was showing everybody else their photos. And then when I was like, "Oh, can I see the photos that I took?" And when he showed my photos, like he pulled them up on his computer and then he started zooming in on the side of my face. He started zooming into my makeup. So I had done contouring. Remember back in the early like 2010s when contouring was a thing, contouring and highlighting? So I will say, I will admit, my makeup, it was a little bit red. It was giving brick red a little bit. But that was the trend back then. So I remember this guy, he just starts going in on how, oh, I was surprised at how much I had to edit your photo. And I was like, "Oh, what?" Thinking like, "Was my hair messed up? What was going on?" And he was like, "Yeah, I had to zoom in on the side of your face and even out everything. I had to even out your makeup." So he started going in on how he had to Photoshop and kind of blur out my contouring lines and kind of even out my makeup. Then he started zooming in on my sideburns. And then he started talking about how with the way that I did my bun, so I didn't do the baby hair sideburns like what they do now, but he was talking about how basically my sideburns on my bun, how they didn't go very well with the aesthetic of this Ralph Lauren photo shoot. And then this guy goes on to say how, yeah, that's proof that nobody's perfect. And then he starts going in about how just because someone is a model, that doesn't mean they're perfect, and how the photographer, which was him, really gets to see all of that model's imperfections. And then he starts zooming in and out of the different areas of the side of my face because the shot of my face was kind of like a profile shot. So it's kind of showing the side of my face looking up at the light skinned black guy. So he starts zooming in and out and going in about how, as a photographer, he gets to see all of the different flaws of models and how a lot of models think they're prettier than what they really are. So if that's not a humbling tactic, I don't know what is. Anyway, I just ignored him. The photos turned out cute, but it's like, who does that? Who zooms in and who goes out of their way to zoom in on my photos in particular? He didn't do that to any of the other people. He didn't do that to any of the girls or any of the guys. He literally just specifically zoomed in on my photos. And also, I understand if you're a photographer, but why are you zooming in so close on the side of somebody's face? And it's like, if you're the director and you wanna edit stuff, you could have easily just said, "Don't wear any makeup." don't wear any makeup at all. Don't do any blush at all. Because at that time, I wanted to do the little red makeup, but my makeup, it wasn't that harsh. It wasn't like Wendy Williams level of harsh. It was still a pretty soft contour line, it was kind of like a more aggressive no makeup look. That's how I would describe it. So it wasn't anything to where it's like, oh my gosh, you look like a drag queen. Like, no, I didn't even wear lashes. It was nothing extreme, but he was going in so hard. And I remember he even zoomed in on my mouth, because my mouth was like slightly open in the photo. So he was zooming in on my mouth saying like, "Oh, what is that?" Basically there was a shadow on the photo, like there was a slight shadow, and he was trying to make it as if like my whole mouth and my upper lip is like messed up, kind of like, "Oh my god, what's that black spot?" or like, "What is this dot on your mouth?" And I just feel like he was so happy to use it as a roasting session when it came time to edit. But anyway, has this ever happened to any of you guys? Have you ever had photographers? He's actually not the only photographer that has done something like that to me. But what do you ladies think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.